Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. Thank you for coming back. If you are new here, what up? Okay, so I was talking with someone in League Chat and they asked basically if ice turrets were even usable at this point in the game. And it had me thinking that I should do a tower overview and kind of if I think that they have a place in the game now or not. And so that is what we are going to be doing today. And we're going to start with the legacy towers, or towers that only use wood to build. Now, the first thing we have is the Ballista. I have a special place in my heart for ballistas because one of my very first in-game names was Ballista Queen, and I had like a whole island of ballistas. They were only level 1, but like they were there. So the Ballista Super Shot does poison damage, which harms the dragon over time. You probably had this on your base as a low level because it was pretty good, like red, blue, purple tier. But as you progress, the poison just doesn't do enough damage to justify having the tower on your base. And it's more of like an LOL kind of tower now when you see them. My goal, honestly, for my base is to build like one max Ballista and put it at the end of my base. So we'll see how that goes. Do I think that it has a place in the current game setup? No, I definitely would not build this tower, and I would not put it on your base as like a genuine I'm gonna have this tower kind of thing. But for lulz, you can use it. Other than that, I wouldn't put it on your base. Next up, we have Archer Towers. The Archer Tower does projectile damage, and the Super Shot is a flaming arrow that basically doubles the damage and increases the speed of the projectiles coming at you. The Archer Tower does do a decent amount of damage, and it does it quickly, but I think that there are better options for high damage towers, and I personally wouldn't build an Archer Tower, but if you're low on embers and ice shards and electrum bars and stuff, and you need like a good damaging tower, it's an okay substitution. The next tower we have is a cannon tower. The cannon tower does projectile damage as well, and the Super Shot breaks most shields. I think there are like 1 or 2 shields that it won't break, but for the majority of shields, it will break them. Invincibility shields, most blast shields, stuff like that, it will break them. It's a decent tower. It does a decent amount of damage, and I've seen a lot of people use it, and it does hurt, and you don't ever realize how much it hurts until you get hit by one, especially if it's like a max cannon. Again, if you are low on other options, I would build a cannon tower, but it isn't like a priority tower. The next tower we have is a Trebuchet. It has a heavy damage projectile, and the Super Shot stuns the dragon. A lot of people call this like a poor man's dark flak. It's an okay tower. The windup is kind of slow, and I probably wouldn't build one. But if you're just starting out and you don't have access to a dark flak yet, it's a decent option, but I wouldn't take it further than like level 40 when you can get the flaks. So the next tower we have is the Storm Tower. It does beam damage, and the Super Shot shields nearby towers in a 5-tower radius, making them invincible until the shield stops or the Storm Tower is destroyed. This is a fantastic option, especially for new players who don't have access to a ton of embers yet. The Earth Flak does add HP and has a little bit more oomph to it as a shielding tower, but this is a great option, especially if you're low on embers and you still want like an ice flak and a dark flak. It's a fantastic tower, and I plan on building one for my next island, and I think it is a great addition to any base. The next tower we have is the Lightning Tower. It does high beam damage, and the Super Shot does more damage with additional lightning towers, and the damage stacks. It caps at 3 towers, but it does buff the amount of damage that is dealt up to 3. So I wouldn't build more than 3 on an island because that's the max that you can basically get as far as the damage buff. But these things are bug zappers. A lot of dragons don't have a beam resist, so beam towers are incredibly useful right now. A lot of the spells that are like dodge spells don't protect you from beams, so it is a great option, especially if you have 3. It's kind of like all the rage right now to have lightning towers, but they do hurt and they do a lot of damage, and they have a pretty long range, so before you can even take them down, they're hitting you. So I definitely recommend lightning towers, especially if you're a low level. Getting them up and putting them on like the back of your island or something and just keeping with them, they're great. The Blue Mage Tower. This blocks blue spells from being used, and the Super Shot drains Dragon's Rage. Anytime that you are in range of a Blue Mage Tower and you have a blue spell, it will automatically cancel it until you destroy that tower. Honestly, a lot more dragons are coming out with blue spells now. The last few seasons, we've seen more like red spell heavy dragons. So red mages were all the rage, especially like double red mage islands. But now things are kind of shifting and blue mage spell dragons are kind of coming back. Personally, I don't have a blue mage on my kill island. I just have one that's like level 60 on my mage drain. And I don't find that I am hindered by not having a blue mage that often. But if you're like a mid-level player, I know everyone's like, oh, well, Howitzer can ruin your base. But in all honesty, any good Howitzer flyer is going to ruin my base regardless of if I have a blue mage or not. So that doesn't really necessarily stop me or like make me want to build a blue mage. And the same thing with Howitzer. If you have a blue mage and it's a good flyer, they're going to get through you even if you have a blue mage or you don't. So I don't find it a necessary tower for me personally, but a lot of people like them and use them. It's just not something that I particularly use. The red mage tower, it does the same thing as the blue mage. It's just the red version. This I find is a better tower, I guess, than the blue mage, just because a lot of the healing like mark spells are red. And then a lot of the kind of AoE damage spells are red, and I just find that I like them better. So I use more red mages than blue mages, and honestly, I only have one red mage on my kill island, but that's besides the point. Red mages definitely useful. I would definitely have them on your kill islands. Any mage is going to be useful. In all honesty, they're some of the best towers in the game, so probably put those on your base. The next tower we have is the fire turret. It does beam damage and it has a large projectile. It has a slow wind-up time, and a lot of people say like don't super shot them because the fireball that it throws does a ton of damage. I just find it's very, very slow and it's easy to dodge, so I don't really see the point in having the fire turret anymore. The super shot does do burn damage and it increases all damage dealt to the dragon, but in all honesty, I would not build this tower in the current game setup. It's just too easy to dodge the big fireball, and that's really the main thing that you want out of it. And the Crystal Howitzer kind of does the same thing. It just does way more damage. So I feel like that would be a more priority tower than the fire turret. The ice turret, it does beam damage, it slows hunter ammo regen, and the super shot shields nearby towers with an HP buff in a 5-tower radius. This thing really buffs the HP on your towers. It does beam damage, which again, a lot of dragons can't get away from beam damage. So lightning towers, the pylon, the ice turret, the storm tower, all those beams are going to eat those dragons alive. I think it's a good tower, especially if you need like a filler tower and you're not sure what you want to build. The ice turret is a good option, and I do recommend it for bases. I just think that there are other options that are stronger at the moment, especially towers like the Dracula Pylon that do a little bit more damage and heal themselves. But overall, the ice turret is a really good addition to pretty much any base. Moving on to Flax, the Dark Flak, it does high elemental damage, the most damaging flak in the game. It has very short range. The super shot stuns dragons. I would 100% recommend building a Dark Flak. It is probably one of my favorite things to super shot because I just really enjoy seeing people like not know what to do because they get stunned. It does an incredible amount of elemental damage, and it is one of the best flaks in the game in my opinion, and I would recommend it to anyone and everyone. I would also like to note that because the Dark Flag has such a short range, I would definitely put it at the front of your island and not at the back. I see a lot of players put them in the back of an island, and by the time the dragon turns the super shot, it's not going to stun them because they're going to destroy it before it gets that chance. So definitely put this at the front of your kill island and don't hide it in the back. The Fire Flak, this super shot reduces dragon damage by 50% for 2.5 seconds, and then when it is destroyed, the tower explodes and deals damage. I'm sure a ton of you have accidentally killed a Fire Flak thinking it was a different flak and then died and were like, ow, what was that? So the Fire Flak is definitely a useful tower. I have it on my base. I don't tend to super shot it or really focus on it too much, but it is a decent flak. It does a decent amount of damage, and you can't really go wrong with building it. The Earth Flak is like the big brother to the Storm Tower. It does elemental damage, and the Super Shot shields the towers in a 5-tower radius with an invincible shield that cannot be destroyed until it ends or the tower is destroyed. Again, the Earth Flak is basically just an upgraded Storm Tower, and it is one of the best towers in the game. Definitely Super Shot this, and I would say to put it in the front of your base because the faster it shields, the quicker your towers are protected. That's just my personal opinion, though. I have it at the front of my island, and I like that it Super Shots a little bit faster that way. But it does have decent range, so it will Super Shot if you put it in the back. There are just instances where if you have it in the back and the dragon turns the corner, it can destroy it before the shield has a chance to go off if the player is quick enough. So keep that in mind. Again, I would recommend it more for a front island than for in the back. The Ice Flak, my personal favorite tower in the game. It has the longest range of all of the flaks, and the Super Shot cancels spells and disables spell casting for a short duration. I love the Ice Flak. I have contemplated building a second one because I just enjoy canceling things and watching people struggle and not be able to cast any spells and then die. It's probably my favorite thing to do when I'm defending is to use the Ice Flak, so I would recommend this 140% for every and any base because it is literally my favorite tower. The Electro Flag, in my personal opinion, it is one of the most underrated flags. The Super Shot increases the nearby flag tower's damage. I think it's maybe just the Super Shot damage, but it could just be regular damage too. I'll have to look into that more. And the Super Shot is a projectile damage, and it does a decent amount. So if you have a dragon with like elemental resist, the Super Shot from the Electro Flag will damage them more because it is technically a projectile and not elemental damage. Again, I think it's a pretty underrated tower, and I don't see a lot of people utilize it that often. So if you have the extra embers, I would definitely look into building it. However, I wouldn't build it over, say, like a dark flak or an ice flak. I think those two are a little bit more important, but it is definitely a good flak, and I would recommend it. Next, we have the Crystal Howitzer, a fairly new tower to the game. It is a high damage projectile. You've probably gotten hit and murdered by it quite a few times at this point. The Super Shot does stun dragons and break shields, so it's kind of like a multi-use thing. But in all honesty, Super Shotting it isn't really the way to go because the regular damage does way more damage than the Super Shot. You're really only going to want to Super Shot this guy for certain dragons like Lockjaw, and anything with a shield that you want to break. I would definitely recommend it because it is one of the highest damaging towers in the game, if not the highest damaging tower in the game right now. But the projectile that shoots out is super slow, and it is pretty easy to dodge right now. It does have a pretty long range, but it is easily kind of countered if you have that rage to cloak it or dodge it. So it's kind of like 50-50. Is it worth it? Yes, if it hits, but if it doesn't hit, And the last, but certainly not least, is the Pylon. It has high beam damage. The regular shot and the Super Shot will heal the Dracula Pylon for 50% of the damage dealt, meaning that if you hit a dragon for 100 damage, it's going to heal the tower for 50. The Super Shot will increase the damage taken by the dragon from all sources by 75% for 2 seconds, meaning that when it hits, all of the other damage that hits the dragon is up 75%. It is definitely one of the best towers in the game right now because of the high beam damage that it does. Again, there aren't that many dragons that can dodge beam attacks. Ikaros, one of his spells, you can still be hit by beam towers. There are just a ton of dragons that get eaten alive by beams right now. So until that shifts, I think beam towers are definitely some of the best towers you can build on your base right now. And unlike lightning towers, there is no Dracula Pylon resist that people can add, whereas people can add like a lightning resist right now to kind of counter the beam damage that the lightnings do. They can't counter the Dracula Pylon beam damage, so it's definitely one I would build and prioritize. I personally have flown in on bases with 2 Dracula Pylons, and it hurts really, really bad. So good luck. I hope this helped. If there are any other questions you have, please let me know. If there are any other videos similar to this that you would like to see, please let me know, and I will think about doing them and probably get them out. But yeah, I hope you guys have a good day or night wherever you are in the world, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!